Hey painting friends, it's Stoof here. Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I last posted any content on the Painting Stoof YouTube channel, and I first wanted to give you a little explanation and also just kind of catch you up on how this year has been going for me. And then we're going to do a painting tutorial. Not this is a wedding painting, but we're gonna do a different painting tutorial using acrylic paints. And then after that, I'm gonna give you guys a tour of my new studio space. So I am excited to share all of this new information with you guys. I moved in the month of May, and this has just been the busiest year of my entire life, and I'm a pretty busy person, so that's saying a lot. In May, I moved for about 20 minutes south from where I lived previously. We moved into a neighborhood that was a little more quiet with more yard space. The dogs love more of the yard space now, and I love my new art studio. So my new art studio is this loft space in the house, and it's nice, big and spacious. I have everything in one space, which I'm gonna show you later. But after we moved in, I started some more wedding paintings. This is one of the wedding paintings that I started live at the venue this summer, and now I'm working on more of the details for my art studio. This one's getting close to being completed, but I've had a lot of those this summer, so that's keeping me really busy. I also did some traveling this summer. Some of you guys also follow my travel channel. It's called Travel Season. I'll leave a link for that channel in the description under this video if you're interested in catching up on any of my travel adventures. But that was another thing that took up quite a bit of my time. I also will be in a solo exhibition coming up, so I'm starting to prepare for that, which is taking more of my time. So in addition to moving everything from my house to a new house, working on wedding paintings, preparing for a solo exhibition, and doing some personal travel, things have been really hectic and busy, and so therefore I did not create any painting tutorials over the last like 6 months probably. But now we're home, and I do have a lot more wedding paintings coming up this fall, but I do want to make more painting tutorials and painting content for you guys. So without further ado, let's dive into our relaxing 1-hour painting tutorial. Today we're going to be painting some coneflowers at my new house. There were some beautiful purple coneflowers planted in our front yard when we moved in, and I thought they were beautiful. I also planted some of my tiger lilies and other plants in the front yard, and they were eaten by the deer that come into our yard here now. These coneflowers do not get eaten by the deer, which is another reason why I enjoy them, because they are still out there in my front yard. I have my disposable palette. My colors for today, I'm using a variety of different paint brands here. These are some of the brands that I'm using. You can use whatever brand works best for you. I just recommend sticking to all soft body or all heavy body, just so your consistencies are somewhat similar. I prefer heavy bodied paint that's a little bit thicker. I'm using an 8" by 10" canvas panel right here. I have a cup of water that I can use to clean off my brushes, and I have some paper towels. I like using Viva paper towels. For my brushes today, I'm gonna get this painting done with just 4 paintbrushes. I'm gonna use this larger brush to just block in a background color. Then I'm going to use this number 2 longer bristled round brush for some of the flower petals. I'm going to use this liner brush for some of the stems, and I'm going to use this number 4 flat tip brush for other little parts of the painting. Our paint colors today, we have a deep green, we have turquoise, we have a phthalo blue. This phthalo blue is by Magic Fly. All of Magic Fly's paints are like a tinted version of the true color, which means it looks like they added a little bit of white paint into all these colors. Like they're not as saturated as I would like them to be. So that's why that phthalo blue looks a little weird. You can use whatever brand works best for you guys. This is Ochre. using the Magic Fly brand, so it's a bit tinted. I have a magenta color, I have a purple, this is like a light olive green, a yellow, so if you have a primary yellow or like a Naples yellow, that would be good there. This is a Mars orange, Ultramarine Blue, crimson red or a Napthol Red Light. Here we have our burnt sienna, and as you can see, both of these are burnt sienna, but they're different brands, so the paint color varies based on the brand. This burnt sienna is better. This burnt sienna has a tint, so it looks like they mixed white in with this color to get that color, but I'll probably use both of them. We have titanium white, we have burnt umber, and we have Dioxazine Purple. All right, let's get started with this tutorial. I'm just gonna get a little bit of the sienna color mixed with a bit of water on my brush, and I'm just gonna start to sketch out where I would like the coneflowers to be. I'm just gonna work on like the central part of the flower, and that's gonna be, so it's just like an oval shape with a little bit more of a flat base and a little bit more of a pointy top. And then we've got another little guy a little farther back right here. Going to put one right here. And you can place these however you'd like. It might be a little easier to follow along if your coneflowers are placed in a similar way that mine are. So this is about my central point of the canvas. So I just put 2 in my lower left quadrant and 2 in my lower right quadrant. I'm gonna put a third one in the right quadrant right on that halfway from top to bottom line. I'm gonna put in the upper right quadrant. You know what, I'm gonna sneak one more in right down here. It's gonna be covered up a little bit, so, but that's where it's gonna go. All right, back to the upper right. We're gonna have one about right here. And we're gonna have another guy, a little bit bigger one, right back there. Gonna have just a couple little buds, like they're not all bloomed yet, back up here. And I'm gonna put another one. This one is blooming right here. Another one a little bit below this guy, a little bigger. And we're gonna put one right on the center, a little higher up in between these two. Another little one that's just opening up. Little bud over here. Put a little bud one right there. Another little bud one right there. Another guy right there. Right here. And another little one right down there. Put this one a little higher up. And another one a little farther back. So as they're getting farther back, we're starting to lose some detail and we're starting to have smaller size flowers. Just put a couple more back in here. We'll get to those later. They're gonna be more out of focus. All right, so now that I know where I want those to be, I'm gonna put this number 4 brush down and I'm gonna go with my larger angled brush and I'm gonna mix this turquoise color with this phthalo blue color. And I'm gonna mix in some of my deep green. Also gonna mix in some sienna. A bit more deep green. So we get like a neutral, cool green, and I'm just gonna fill in all of the space around these cones, central parts of the flowers. Just covering the whole canvas, starting with just this part and down. So let's start from the halfway up to down and just fill that in first. And you wanna work relatively quickly here. As you can see, I'm moving the brush in different directions, dabbing it in some spots just to get really good coverage of the paint. A lot of beginners struggle with putting too much paint on their brush and then they end up getting weird textures on the canvas or the paint like drags. doesn't properly go onto that canvas. So try to be mindful of that. You don't want to have too much paint on your brush, but if you don't have enough paint, then you're going to end up with a line that looks like that. And then you just got to really push and get back in there. So if you're a beginner, that's something that comes with more practice. I'm going to get some more blue, turquoise, my green, and my sienna. Just had to remix because I ran out of paint. Still working pretty quickly here because I want to be able to blend that with my next color. A little bit more of my green, sienna. So it's even a little darker down here, and that's fine. This is the foreground, so we're going to end up having more contrast in the foreground area of the painting anyway. I'm going to build up more shadows down there. And I have been in this new house. Well, I haven't been home the whole time, but we technically moved in mid-May, and it is the end of August 2023. And this is my first acrylic painting I'm doing in this house. That's pretty crazy that I've been here for several months and haven't done any acrylic painting. I've only been doing oil painting. All right, so we got that down. Next, I'm gonna take more turquoise and more of my forest green. Mixing a little bit of yellow in there too. And now I'm just starting to make a transition. As we're getting farther away from the viewer here, farther into the distance, we're getting a little less contrast. Our colors are getting a little bit lighter in value. You can mix a little bit of purple in there too, a little bit more yellow, maybe a little bit of white, a little bit more white, and a little more turquoise. Just keep blending the colors until you like what you're getting. And just keep filling in the spaces around those little cones that you put down, central parts of the flowers. So here it is drying a little bit, so I'm doing a little bit of like more dry brushing here. I'm just gently pressing and letting the paint kind of blend into what I had at the lower half of the canvas. And I'm going to take even more of that green because we get and a little bit of that yellow because we're getting a different type of grass back here. Mix a little bit of that olive color into. We want to warm that up some more. Mixing in more of my green and my phthalo blue color and my burnt sienna, a little more turquoise, and we're just gonna mix more of this yellow and some white. And a little bit more of this olive green color. It's kind of warming it up a bit. And that value is a little bit darker, so I'm just gonna come back in with more yellow and white. Just lighten and warm it up a bit more. There we go. Need a little more turquoise. And while you're using acrylic paints, you may notice that the paint looks a little bit darker once it dries, and that is pretty common with acrylic paint. Acrylic paint usually dries a little bit darker than what it looked like when you first put it down when it's wet. I'm just going to cover up most of these spots. Back here, I can paint those back in later. All right, so now we got that mostly covered up. I'm gonna take some more white and some of my olive green and some turquoise. And this is significantly lighter in value than that. I'm just gonna blend this in a little bit more, doing up and down brush strokes. Just want things to be a little bit lighter back there. All right, and we'll take some more of this yellow, this ochre color, a little bit of Mars orange, and just brighten some things up back here too. It's a little bit more of a dry brush now because it's drying pretty quickly today. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna put this brush back in the water. We don't need that brush anymore. Now we're gonna start working from the background to the foreground. So I'm gonna start with my number 4 brush, and we're just gonna put some of these little dabs in there. I'm just gonna mix a little bit of purple with my Sienna. I'm gonna use a little bit of that lighter Sienna color too, with a little bit of phthalo, or Ultramarine Blue. And some white. A little bit more blue maybe. A little more white. And we're just gonna put these little dabs in back here. It's best to do this while it's still a little bit wet so you can get a little bit of a fuzzier look, a little hazier, out of focus look. So mixing in a little bit more blue with my Sienna. And I'm very gently pressing on here. If you used a lot of paint when you put that background down, you might need to wait a bit for it to dry a little more before you can come in with your little cones over top, like I'm doing here. So you can put that little dab down for everywhere you want to have a little cone for your flower. And then if you take the extra paint off of your brush, then you can really softly press, and that'll help to send it out of focus. Just go right around the edges very, very gently. Okay, and while we're back there, actually let's get this one in here too. I'll take a little bit more of my brown with some of my Ultramarine Blue. Just putting that down right there. Okay, and just cleaning off that brush on the paper towel, mixing in some white with my purple, a little bit of ultramarine, and a little bit of this phthalo, and a little bit of this turquoise, because I don't want it to stand out like a super vivid purple yet. You could even mix a little bit of brown in there. And we're just gonna start with very gently putting down some brush strokes. And this paint is a little bit wet in the background, so it is blending a little bit. I'm keeping everything really dark right now. You can only see petals on the lower half under the cone shape. Next, I'm going to take a little more white and a little bit of my warmer magenta color. And I'm going to build up over the shadow colors. Again, really softly pressing, barely putting any pressure on the canvas. I just want these little cone flowers in the background to help add to the scene. Our focal point is more of these flowers in the foreground, so these ones are just adding to the atmosphere. All right, we got those ones in there. Next, I'm gonna clean off the brush in the water, dry off the brush on the paper towel. And next I'm gonna take some of this ochre color with the Mars yellow. Get the extra paint off of the brush, and we're just gonna, we've got a different type of flower back here, so I'm just gonna start adding these in. They're just like little dandelions or something. Maybe they're black-eyed Susans. You can't really tell from here. You don't really see the, you see the back of these flowers. I'm just putting some in here for now, just putting the paint down, and then we're gonna fuzz those out a little bit more later. So now I got the extra paint off of my brush on my napkin, and I can just gently push around on here. Kind of fuzz them out a little bit. Just very gently. Trick is to be very gentle. You don't want to press too hard. If pressing gently isn't doing anything, then you can start to use a little bit more force when you're pressing down. Now we're going to take more of that Mars orange color and just dab that on a couple of these little spots here. And you don't want to have like perfectly symmetrical spacing between your flowers. You want to have some like a little closer together, little clusters. I take some of my primary yellow, a couple little dabs down for there. Try not to have any streaks of paint with harsh lines. And we're gonna mix a little bit of that Sienna with some blue and some of that Mars and some yellow. It's just gonna give us, and a little purple. Gonna give us like a deeper, darker brownish yellow color. Let's try mixing yellow with Dioxazine Purple and a little bit of blue. That's good. So these ones are just down in shadow a little more. Okay, that just adds a little bit more color to the scene. Take a little bit more of the primary yellow, just dab that on a couple spots. Okay. Looking good. Next, while we're still in the background here, let's just take our same brush and we'll add some little stems. So we're gonna mix some purple and some of that dark green. It's a little bit of Mars orange. These are more of the shadowy parts of the stems. Okay, just gonna, oops, I think that's a little too dark, so I'm gonna lighten that back up with some olive. There we go. You want to just be slightly darker, and we're just gonna take this brush and just add some little lines. Some of them can kind of cover up a bit of your flowers if you want. Can leave some spots more open. Gonna darken down right above this next section of cones. Adding a little more turquoise up here. A couple little highlights. The turquoise color mixed with a little bit of yellow. And again, you don't want all of your stems to be symmetrical, parallel. Some of them can crisscross each other. gonna take more of my ochre yellow, that green, and start to add some more under these flowers. Covering some of them up. Just carrying that over a bit so it's not like we only have that color highlight on one side of the canvas. Taking a little bit more of my umber and my dark green. Gonna build up some more shadows on this side. Just going in between some of those little highlights. Again, try not to get too caught up on making this background perfect because we are gonna be painting the foreground next, which is more of the focal points. So I'm just starting to add a few more little highlights in there. And I want to build up the highlight on these petals back here too. So I'm just going to mix a little bit more of my white and magenta. Just kind of brush that on. Just keep building up the highlights until I like what I'm seeing there. And I'm going to take a little bit of that Sienna and a bit of the orange color and just do a little dab where we have the tops of some of the cones. All right, that looks nice. Okay, next we are going to keep working our way towards the foreground. So just just drip some paint on there, no big deal. I'm gonna take some brown and some purple and some ultramarine, and we're gonna just get the base of some of these cones painted. And for some of them, you can just cover the whole, I guess you can do it for all of them, just cover the whole cone, and then we will layer up a highlight over top of that. So I'm just using this dark purplish brown color, filling in all of these shapes that I left exposed before. One more blue. Make sure you guys don't have any white space left on your canvas after this. You want to have all of those spots pretty much filled in. All right. And next we're gonna keep doing what we were doing. So we're gonna start with the purple. I'm gonna mix a little bit of phthalo in with that purple. Maybe a little bit of the red. Just to get a little darker, something we can build up on. All right, and then we're gonna start with this guy here. You know what? I'm gonna switch brushes. So I'm gonna put that number 4 brush back and I'm gonna switch to my number 2 longer bristled round brush. And for this brush, this is great for these petals here. I'm actually gonna mix a little more red in there. We're gonna start by not pressing too hard and then add a little bit more pressure. And as we come down, start to lift the brush again, and look at that, one brush stroke and you get the nice coneflower petals. So you just want to start with light amount of pressure, and then you can build up more pressure for the ones where you want a thicker line. Then lift it back up when you want a more gentle, thinner line. Okay, same thing over here, mixing a little more red in. Starting thin, more pressure. And this is under that one, so a little bit of overlap there. All right, dipping my paint in the brush in the water. Mixing a little more blue and white. This one's gonna be another one. And I'm only painting select ones right now because some of them are shaped different than others, so I'm working on all the ones that have a similar shape right now. Okay, a little more white. This one, let's see, just a little bit of that guy there at that angle. A little bit of this one. And I wouldn't worry too much about how many petals you have on each one, just so it's, you know, somewhat similar to this. I can count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 petals visible on this one. But some of them you can see less, some of them you can see more. Okay, got all the ones I could see on that flower. Mixing more of my purple, magenta, and white. And now we're gonna do this one, which is overlapping this guy. See a little bit more on this side. Okay. Let's move to this one. Actually, let's move to this one. This one's more in shadow, so we're gonna mix more of our blue and white. Gonna speed up a little bit here. I think you guys got a handle on the general brush strokes. And we're just gonna have a few more little petals visible down here. Can't see the cone because there are some stems in front and some leaves in front of it. Gonna put a few more, mix a little more white in there, and then put a few more cooler blue ones, just like the petals. A little bit more pink. See, I missed a little bud back here. Okay, what else we got here? Let's do some more little ones. Just throwing in some more brush strokes there. Okay, I'm gonna take some more pink and white, or magenta and white. And now we're gonna work on some that are a little bit less stooping down. They're more like perky. I guess they're newer ones that are just blooming. And for these ones, we have longer petals on the sides and shorter petals on the front and back of the flowers, and that's just the way that we're perceiving them. Another one here. Got another light one here, mixing a little more white in there. Just getting all these nice little shapes. Couple more on this one. Okay, I'm gonna mix a little bit more of my magenta for this one. Kind of aiming down again. Make some more white. And this one here is going to have more of the lighter colors too. So just having these little variations in value is helpful just to get these flowers to stand out from one another. Okay, this one over here is going to be darker. It's down in the shadows. Okay, and I think I got every little cone that I had there. So now that that's done, I'm going to keep working with this brush I was using before, just cleaning it off a little bit. I'm going to take some of my dark green and some of my umber and a little bit of that lighter green. And we're just going to put some little buds, little bases under the flowers. Mix a little bit of that purple in there, a little bit of yellow. Get a nice dark color. And I'm gonna put a little bit of this darker color down at the bottom. That's where we've got some really deep shadows. Just grabbing a bit more of that deep green color. More of my brown, mixing that in, trying to work around the flowers, just kind of putting in little patches of that dark color. You can mix some of your other green in here if you want to. We're just trying to build up a little bit of depth by making variations in our green and variations in the values. Putting some more Ultramarine Blue. A little purple. Just some of that green by itself. Green, a little bit of my yellow. So I'm just mixing random colors here. You kind of have your own freedom. Just want to, in general, keep more of your darker values closer to the bottom and your lighter values, meaning lighter from light to dark, up here, farther away. I'm just gonna add a few more little bases for flowers here. Gonna just cover up a couple things I had there. All right, next I'm gonna switch to my liner brush. I'm gonna take some of that green, olive green color with some of my deep green. And now we can start to add some little stems. Just dragging the brush down. Gonna have a bit of a slant for that one. And if you add a bit of water to your brush, that's how you can get this nice smooth line for all of these. Getting the little stems for my little buds. Gonna mix a little bit more white in there. And I'm gonna mix white and a little bit of magenta without really cleaning the brush off that much, so it's like a muted color. And these are my little buds that are just opening. All right. Next, I'm gonna go back to my more round brush, and we can keep working on building the lower half of this canvas up here. I wanna work on the different leaves and things under here. So we're gonna mix some of our white with that ochre color and some dark green. I'm gonna mix a little bit of my Sienna in there and just start to add random little stems coming off of some things. It's a similar process to how we did the petals, so you can start with a thin line, build it up, and then bring it thin again. And you don't want to use the exact same color for every single one of these. Some of them are going to be a little bit more brown. Some of them are going to be a little bit more green. So you can mix in some of your darker brown there. Just add a few more in there. Gonna keep things a little bit darker and cooler down here where we've got deeper shadows. Gonna build up more shadows again, mixing my deep green with my brown and some yellow. Mix in some purple there too. Whoops. A little bit more green. And some of that yellow. Still just filling in some spots. Take more of our yellow. Build up a few more, oh, maybe some white too. Add a few highlights, go back over some of your little stems that you might have covered up. Can add some more stems. The goal is to just get it to look pretty busy down here. Alright, mixing more white. Gonna take some pure turquoise. Just adding some little tick marks, like I've got some more petals. Gonna mix some more yellow into some of these. It's my Mars orange. A little bit of the green. Just to warm up color on some of the stems and plants. A little bit more white. Just to boost the highlights on these guys and therefore get that contrast up in the foreground. Alright, so that's looking pretty busy for now. Next I want to go back in and touch up my cones. So I'm going to mix my Mars orange with my burnt sienna, and we're just going to add some little highlights on here, just doing little dabs with this number 2 brush. Just going right along the top, doing little dabs, keeping that nice oval, more rounded shape. Want a nice warm brown for the tops. Let's do that for every single one. Okay, we've got a little bit of green visible in some of these, so I'm just going to put a little bit of green in there too. And the green you can't really see in every one, but I'm gonna put it in some of them there. Okay, then we need just some brown, maybe with a little bit of that Sienna in there too, just to transition it down to the darker color. And everything still looks pretty dark right now. The next step after this is going to be to brighten up all these flowers, and that is what's going to send this into looking more realistic. Okay, now I'm going to take more of my brown and blue, purple, just build up what I had before. The base of all these cones, keeping that same up and down shape, texture, brush stroke. Okay. Now we're going to take some of our red, mix that with our purple, and some of these flowers have a nice bit of red right near the central part, and I'm just starting at that central part, starting to carry that out just a little. Halfway down some of the petals. It's not every single flower that has it. Okay, next I'm going to take this magenta and some white. And a little bit of this purple, a little more white, and we're gonna carry this down. So spots where sunlight is touching the flower petals, we're getting more of this warm pink color, which is on the other side. So everything on the foreground and general, for the most part, is gonna have cooler colors, and things on the far side of the flowers are getting a little bit more sunlight and picking up some of those pretty colors. So we're just gonna get some of those in there. And if you accidentally cover up some of your cone, that's okay, just touch it up like this. Easy fix. Just gonna add a little bit more detail to that guy. Okay, clean off my brush. Gonna mix some more white with this purple color. And that's kind of more of what we're seeing on this side. If you need to re-put down some of that warm pinkish color, you can. Some of these are pretty cool when it comes to color. Let's do some more white down here. Keep it cool, but brighten it up. And we can do more of the purple near the central part of these ones. Okay, I'm gonna take more white with that pink, build up a few more petals on these ones. This one's brighter too. Don't forget to use that brush stroke technique where you don't press too hard near the base and then you put down more pressure and then you lift up again. And just play around with it, building up some more values and colors and highlights until you're pretty happy with your painting. A lot of them are lighter at the tips, away from the central part. So you can put some paint down and then you can brighten those up. Just drag that color into the center. Gonna mix a little bit more of my cool colors down here. Mix it into purple. So you can see these little variations are helping to build up the depth in the flowers. It's always a little darker by the cone part, a little lighter by the edges. Mixing a little bit of blue and purple. we can lighten up a few more of these back here now that we've got an idea of what everything else looks like. Brighten up these ones a little more too. A little bit more white at the edges on the more flat ones. Okay, and then I just want to touch up a few more of the little cones with some more orange and red. Just warm these up some more. Use a little bit more red as we transition. Sometimes when you put something down and then it dries, you realize, okay, that was a little too dark. Let's lighten that up a bit more. That's what we do. And just take some more brown and sienna. Just make sure you keep that shape with your highlights. Take some more purple. And we've got a little bit of green at the base of some of these. All right. I'm just gonna do, with the liner brush, a couple more little highlights in the grass. Actually, I'm just gonna take that olive color and mix just like a little bit of brown and a little bit of blue. And we're just gonna build up a little bit more of a highlight on some of these spots, very gently pressing. Things are kind of loose. And I really want to get more change in value in these stems, just to get them to stand out a bit more. Mixing a little bit more of that dark green color in, just to keep building up the, and some more white, keep building up my little stems. Just gonna touch up this one little section right here too. All right, and with that, I'm gonna call this a finished painting. If you are new to this channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button if you're interested in learning more painting techniques, brushstroke techniques, color blending techniques, and just the basics of realism painting. All right, guys, here is my new art studio space. So it's a little bit bigger than my art studio in the past. I still have my drying rack here, got some storage boxes, some storage over there. There's a closet on the far right back there, but that's kind of messy, so I'm not going to show that to you. Got my scanner. This is where I start to package and ship some things. It's a little messy right now, kind of busy, as you guys heard. We got some of my past little tutorials over here, some shipping supplies. Got the front yard space view, so I got a nice view. Got my studio lights, everything I need for my art business. I got my stand-up desk, which goes up and down. That's not new. I got my little tray here to hold all my paints, which I sort by color. Got my acrylic paints in those tubs. This is one of my past paintings of a vernal fall in Yosemite. Got a little plant, some more wedding paintings. And this is the loft. So I have a view down into my living room. And one of the negative things about this studio space is there isn't a door to just like close the space and have some silence. So if you guys happen to hear any background noise in future videos, my apologies. And that's about it. Like I said, everything I need's right here in my past home studio. I had things separated across like 3 different rooms and using up some spare bedroom space, and now I don't need to do that anymore. Everything I need is right up here in my loft. So very happy with the studio space overall. All right, guys, that concludes my painting tutorial, a tour of my new studio space, and the update on my life. Hopefully I'll be bringing some more painting tutorials to you shortly. Thanks for watching, have a wonderful day, and happy painting. Bye-bye.